Hi, everybody. It's Ron again, and we're here for another day of looking at the crazy headlines, and they seem to get crazier every day. All the more reason to add context and commentary where available so we can understand what maybe what's going on or maybe what they're trying to tell us. So I have a slightly different format today with how I look at the headlines. I got some good feedback from people. And maybe it's easier to see these headlines and follow along. Here we have this crazy stuff here. Musk, fool, he's always been a loose cannon when it comes to saying crazy things, over-promising on all of his projects. This is one of the reasons the media has gone after him in the past when he said he's going to do these cars, and they scoffed at him. Then he's going to do these electric trucks. That still hasn't come about. But now he liked or responded to an anti-Semitic tweet a couple days ago. We have the White House condemning him, as they should. As an American, I'd always thought that anti-black sentiment was a problem in our country that we needed to address. But really, until Trump came to the White House in 2016, I think Trump himself was not exactly. I don't think every ill of the world can be laid at his feet, but what we have were a lot of people who came out, especially with the innovation of social media, and they felt comfortable to express a lot of weird, old-fashioned opinions, such as this anti-Semitic stuff. And now we have the situation of another big war in the Middle East that's going to involve, if not U.S. soldiers, a lot of U.S. money. And I also suspect, certainly America's adversaries and also adversaries of Israel are clearly using social media, as we'll see in some of these other headlines, like with TikTok, to spread false narratives about what's really happening there in the Middle East. But this sort of thing, people spouting dumb stuff, it's maybe in the long run, it's not as important as articles like this that were nestled here at the very top of the page. This is stuff that we've been talking about here on this channel for several weeks now. The smoke-filled rooms, the back rooms, the big fat cat smoking cigars. See, this is a stereotype from the late 19th century where we have the party bosses trying to maneuver the right candidate into the general elections, not relying on primaries, really. And this is the idea that both Biden and Trump are too old, too damaged, too peculiar in their thinking for one way or another to be good candidates right now. Too divisive, maybe. So here we have these polls showing first Biden losing out to Trump, losing out to even DeSantis, although that seems very close. Here's more. I think Nikki Haley is down here. She's really topping Biden by 10 points there. Of course, this is way, way, way early. Very often in American primaries, a person who starts out strong, somehow they just go belly up early on in the primaries. You just have to lose one primary here and there, and suddenly the wind goes out of their campaign. And we have this certainly a right-leaning source that is going to play up any foibles, any crazy missteps by Biden. I guess someone has to. The rest of the media doesn't. But here we have a reference to the other page we just looked at, where the poll is showing how Biden is not the right candidate, perhaps. Now, this may be something the White House doesn't like, but the guys in the smoke-filled room, the party people and the Democrats, may be wanting to maneuver another person who might be a better candidate. And for this gives them ammunition to talk to those the White House people and say, let's figure something out about your candidacy, about Biden's candidacy. Oh, here we have something. Sacha Baron Cohen. People are coming together there in Hollywood to note how all these weird, false, anti-Semitic. I suppose it starts with the misinformation about what's going on in the Middle East. We have a terrorist group, Hamas, that has taken over Palestinian territories. They're not in any way form the just government there, probably at the behest of Iran, who supposedly is supporting them, if not coordinating with them. They launched that attack. They killed thousands of people, innocent people. They took lots of hostages, which are still holding gleefully. They didn't try to hide anything like that, but still, many dumb Western young people, it seems, are supporting. Not only, they're not just supporting the Palestinian people, saying they're calling for the destruction of Israel. This is something. This is really one of the scary endpoints of the social media landscape that we've created, where we give everyone a voice. This is the idea. A newspaper is sort of a one-way thing. The news comes to us. If we want to say something about what's in the newspaper, we used to have to write a letter to the editor. And then if that editor decided the letter was what they wanted to print and not from a nut, and a lot of what these newspapers get are from crazy people. If they want to put that letter in, your letter gets in there. So that's and same with television. Television was a one-way. Things are coming into you and you consume it. And it was always thought that perhaps democracy and truth would be improved if we have more ways where there's a two-way communication or where everyone has a voice. That's what the internet seemed like, but now we have these social media accounts. Maybe they're bot-driven or AI-driven. You don't even need people to create a plausible person in social media to present views one way or another. So we see how technology can upend certain ideas about one-way or two-way communication, improving democracy and truth and an informed electorate. Here we have big corporations here fawning over communist ruler. Of course, in any headline where we see this sort of loaded speech, obviously this is somebody who wants to slam these companies and maybe take a harder line towards China. But of course, okay, I wanted to say this about this. This whole concept. So why did we allow all of these huge companies to invest in China? Certainly they're doing it because it's cheaper to have, essentially, in some cases, slave labor do your work while the rich people back in the Western countries consume what has been produced. However, there was another thinking of it that pervaded the entire political spectrum in the liberal Western democracies. Excuse me. And this was the idea that if we create and empower and bring wealth to some of these countries that are authoritarian, it will develop an empowered middle class that will eventually create change organically, internally, without us having to fight a war or have damaging trade sanctions that hurt the economy of the world. And that did work to a certain extent, perhaps in the Eastern European countries with the downfall of communism. There are a lot of countries you could say that helping develop their economy was the first step to eventual political change. But that seemed to mostly happen in the 1980s, early 1990s perhaps. But since then, we have these countries such as China where it really hasn't worked. The authoritarian government there is stronger than ever. China's richer than ever. And we have another thing that the architects of these policies to put all the business there never realized how the internet allows now these authoritarian governments to have more control and oversight and strengthen their authoritarian grip on people. This goes back to that one-way or the two-way communication. You know, there's some old documentaries that talk in the 80s about how television and the media, instead of being like 1984 that would watch people and help authoritarianism, it helped to overthrow because it showed the people in Russia and in the Soviet republics and in the Eastern European bloc that was controlled by Russia. It showed them the truth, that there was another truth outside of their world, and how that helped it. So this technology helped it, help political change. But apparently there's a limit to that, and we've seen that in China where they're using technology quite successfully to strengthen their grip over the populace, and all of this money we've put into it, all of our manufacturing prowess, ripping that out of America, putting that in China, it certainly has enriched and helped them do that, helped them accomplish that. More crazy stuff. Here's Trump stuff. This crazy guy we mentioned yesterday. Those are a few leftover headlines. Here's more decay in the cities in the United States. Memphis police chief claims crime is so bad not even the army can stop it. I just wanted to mention this only for the fact, I see a lot of Fox News things here, so obviously this is going to be a right-wing leaning thing, because it could possibly make the executive branch, the White House, the president, look bad because of crime. But we have to admit it, the media in general hasn't laid all of this criminality, the looting, the destruction of the inner cities that have happened very recently at all at the steps of the White House. And I don't want to be too partisan, and I try to be reasonable and pragmatic, but I'll be willing to bet that during a Republican administration, all of the media outlets, the preponderance of them which are left-leaning, they certainly would be screaming and yelling in all of these articles that the White House, the executive branch, that their policies are to blame. But we have a situation here where most of inflation, the decay of the inner city, the proliferation of America's adversaries becoming more pugnacious in the face of an apparently of a country, the United States, that's unwilling maybe to engage with a lot of dissent at home. None of this is really blamed that much on the Biden administration, and I would be a little wary to do that, because in normal times I would say, okay, let's try the other guy, the Republican, but I'm sort of scared to have Trump come in as well. I'm not sure that I like orderly people, and Trump is not an orderly character. Let's just leave it at that. Here's this OpenAI fires Sam Altman. This is the company that went on to do the Chat GPT. I guess about a year ago, that burst onto the scene to change the whole world. This has caused other AI company stocks to slump. They don't say exactly why they fired him, saying he wasn't as candid. You see, the suspicion here is anytime there's a new technology that comes out, it's way, way overhyped by the media. And we see these new news aggregation sites, the Drudge Report, even if you go on news.google.com, all of them will have tons and tons of articles hyping up how it's going to change everything. Jobs are going to be changed. It's a new disruptor. But then over time, there's usually a fall off of the expectations as the media hype dies down. So what people are thinking about here or suspecting is this is likely the AI will have impact. Whether it will have as much impact as the media has been screaming about that it's going to have in the last 6 months, we'll see. But this is sort of a crack that shows that perhaps all the vaulted expectations, at least maybe in the near term, may be media hype. We talked about newspaper closures intensify yesterday. It's all part of perhaps the dumbing down of the electorate, especially at the local level. Nobody's reading that local news much anymore. Only the old people are subscribing to newspapers. Oh, but one hopeful thing, we're going to have VR porn. We've talked about this in the past. The fleeing high-tech tax states. Certain states, certain states in the U.S. are more conservative or liberal. They have different tax policies. Some high tax policies to help people and provide services. Other ones where you have very low taxes, but you don't have many services. And we see here in the last few years, 2020 and 2021, well over 100,000 people have fled from other states into Florida. And a lot of people into Texas, North Carolina, Arizona, Tennessee. They have perhaps better tax regimens, state, local, county taxes, maybe other rules that encourage homeowning or protect your assets from homeowning, and they're leaving the states that are much more, depending on your viewpoint, draconian, or in terms of taxes, they have a lot higher taxes. They might have extra taxes on the wealthy or on large-scale purchases like expensive homes. So we have California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts. Certainly these are sort of legendary liberal states. I sort of like that about the United States. We have, if you feel a little more liberal, you can live in those states that are going to take care of you more, but they'll tax you more. They might have more beautiful roads and garden areas and parks. If you don't like that, you can go to other states that are much more rural in nature. They're not going to pave all the roads. You're going to have a lot lower taxes, but a lot fewer services as well. I like that. I mean, I like being able to choose. Within a country, you just don't have one federal policy. We have something I am completely uninterested in riding. I don't know why people will go on roller coasters. I'm scared enough in real life. I don't need to pretend to be scared. So here we have the Saudi Arabia, of all places. Biggest, fastest, tallest roller coaster, 156 miles per hour. I'm scared just flying on the plane to another place, and it goes a lot faster than that. So, excuse me. I really don't talk that much except on my shows, and then I really talk a lot. This is so terrible. It's hilarious. 100. So all these people, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I can't help it, so I will. Hundreds of small animals meant for adoption may have been frozen, fed to reptiles. Well, those reptiles got to eat. So the Humane Society, they were, a lot of people donated or sent their small animals, lovingly lined with straw, guinea pigs, hamsters, rat, and mice, about to embark on a journey to Tucson, adopted into forever homes. Whatever you got to tell your kids to get rid of those animals, I guess. Oh, no. But anyway, there was some, I couldn't understand how they're blaming this, but what happened eventually was they, in Arizona, they found a different use for these little animals, and they were used to feed to people who had reptiles. I guess people who wanted to have those little animals. So I guess they didn't go to waste exactly, but that's a horrible, sad thing. Let's get away from that. Here's more media touting. Well, this is referring to studies. So cutting edge blood test might finally be able to detect pancreatic cancer. It's a cancer apparently quite easy to treat if you would happen to catch it in the early stage, but you never can, because by the time there's any symptoms, it's already too far gone and they just have to send you home to die. So that would be really cool if the people who are successfully treated for pancreatic cancer, it would be a case where they have surgery for something else, or they're doing an exploratory look and they happen to see it in the super early stages. When then you would account yourself very lucky. So anyway, I suspect most of the time when we read stuff like this, most people who read it are too old to ever benefit from it by the time it comes to market to be able to be used. Here we have this more stuff in the Middle East, horror stories coming out of there. I haven't even considered buying an electric vehicle, and now they're already out of style. That's always been my way, I guess. To me, a regular car is fine. Another generation after I die can get excited about electric vehicles. I'm not going to pay extra to save the planet. Oh dear, students missing school at alarming rates. Whatever are we going to do? I have a lot of other things to be interested in. I'm sure you do too. Here we got child soldiers and blood feuds. Sweden's out of control gang wars. Come on, Sweden. I'd never been there, but this was supposed to be one of those socialist paradises. I know just recently there was the articles that came out that, Sweden has let in a lot of, let's say, immigrants who have no intentions. They want to live their lives and their families' lives in Sweden, but they don't want to be Swedish. They're not interested in assimilating into a new culture. And so you have different cultural pockets of maybe very different cultures that are causing problems there. I'm disappointed in you, Sweden. You need to get on top of this. I don't know what we can say about that. Here we got our book sales, and that's the perfect time that I can segue into a quick little ad. This is my novel. I am a writer of several books. This is my latest novel. It's about people, young foreigners, and Thai people living in the concrete jungle of Bangkok. Their hopes, their fears, what drives them, what they're searching for as they go to the ends of the earth and then beyond. There's still unknown places out there. It's on Kindle and Amazon for now. Got a couple things cooking. Hopefully it'll be in more places soon. I hope you'd want to grab a copy and read it. If you do, let me know what you think. So back to the headlines. First I can see, okay, Britney Spears sold considerably more than Streisand and infinitely more than my book, but I still have my hopes. So it's interesting how all of these top books are based around personalities. We got Britney Spears, we got Streisand, we got Maddow. You know, even though she's writing about America, it's people buy it because they're hooked into these media personalities. And we got Ted Cruz, same thing. We got Schwarzenegger. And then here's a bio of Musk. So it's all about the people and the personality. We live in the social media age. Nations seeking reparations for slavery from Europe. I suppose. I don't know. It's interesting. 40% of American homes are owned without mortgages. Excuse me, that used to be very rare. We have the aging boomers who are paying off their record low deals. They have like very good mortgage deals. This is very typical of new homes. I wanted to point this out in America, all the new subdivisions. Now it's different. You see giant homes on very small lots where they minimize the lawn size. When I was a kid, and you go back, I suppose if you look 60s, 70s, even 80s, the idea is everybody wanted to have a lot of kids and you'd have a big yard. So the kids could go out and you'd have a big fenced-in yard for the dog. Maybe you'd have a little shed out there. But that's all changed. So now, no matter how big or small your lot is, you want your house to cover up as much of the space as possible. So we have these are actually not single houses. I see they are duplexes, but they are very big. Even if you look at a single one, the lawns are minimized. I'm sure to the absolute, the houses are made as big as they are to the absolute limit of the zoning. And people are spending time inside, I guess, with social media. And other thing you will notice about houses from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and the houses beyond that, these giant houses on small lots do have much, much larger rooms. I went into a house I grew up in, which was like a normal, average middle class house, and gosh, you just think all these rooms are so small, and the new houses all have very much more open floor plans. Here we have some about drag queens. We covered that yesterday. Nuke war will happen, Putin ally warns. I had some literary theme I always followed in my writing, saying anything that can happen will eventually happen. Every eventuality will play out. I hope this is one that does not. And this is Russia threatening, again, obviously veiled threats against Ukraine. This is another country that the West thought, it's after the fall of the Soviet Union, still quite authoritarian. Kind of a lot of mafia growing there. So what we did was threw tons of money into it, said if we can grow a middle class, we will create positive political change internally. And just like in China, didn't work. Got this guy. Now they're populist politicians are always shown in the media with menacing photos like Trump is. Here's one of somebody in Argentina. How will we stop this guy everybody wants to vote for? I didn't see this. Oh, wow. See, F1. Yeah, that sort of driving is really cool. It's not really known like it is in the rest of the world. I've been places and people just talk to me, and I mean, they know soccer, which you guys call football, is not big in the United States, never was. Europeans know that. Other foreigners in other countries know that. Most people don't know that this F1, which is giant. I mean, those drivers and their teams, the technology, that's just God tier status in the media and in people's minds. Not that big in the United States. Not yet. Got super old people. It always comes down to diet and not and genes. Okay, we got genes. We got genes. We got diet. We got being calm and stressful. None of those will work for me. My genes are shot. I've lived a super stressful life, and I'm a super stressful person. So I just telling me to calm down. And I've eaten enough garbage junk food in my life. It's probably destroyed my DNA. So by the time I found out about this, it's already too late. Why most men don't have close friends? They do bring up something in this about, there's some study about male friendships, and many participants assume the survey was about homosexuality. This is a strange sort of idea in culture. You know, we see this in those Star Wars films where we have Finn and Poe, two of the characters, they're friends, but the way media can only see it, that since men don't have friends, that they have to be gay or something. I guess on one hand, men occasionally have friends. Certainly now, as we see that people, only interpret that as being gay. But I would say mostly men don't have close friends because, we might have acquaintances. Don't want to sit down. We wouldn't have close friends because a close friend is to talk about your feelings and stuff. And I would never think to do that. I think most men wouldn't do. I'm not going to pour out my heart. If I'm with a friend, I would want to forget about all that dumb stuff. That's the way I would deal with it, and just have some fun, shoot some pool or whatever people do now, play video games. That's the way of getting rid of the problems of life, rather than telling someone about it and emoting about it. Well, that's today's headlines, and that's a lot of stuff. There's troubling stuff we have about antisemitism here and the state of the world. But I think if we keep paying attention to the news and we try to realize what's behind it and who's saying it, why they're saying it, and the wider realm of history, I think that's a good thing for all of our minds to deal with this stress. So I've been picking out my card deck here, my Art of War card deck, see if we have some advice here. So I'm going to pick a card, haven't seen what it is yet, off the top here, and see what advice the Art of War has for us today. We have fill your camp with empty tents. Create the illusion of strength to change your adversary's course of action. The basis of this is illusions of strength produce real results against those who hesitate to call your bluff. So I guess make yourself bigger and better than you really are. I don't know if that's really good advice, because isn't that what the whole social media and internet really are? You pretend like you're something that you're not to impress others for cred. They used to say in economics, big hat, no cattle, meaning someone who appears to be wealthy but doesn't have any assets. So, gosh, I didn't want to end on a downer, but that's today's news. I will see you tomorrow for more headlines and context so we can understand what's going on in the world. Bye-bye.